May our Father, Messiah, and the Holy Spirit be with us. Numbers chapter 14. Then all of the congregation raised a loud cry, and the people wept that night. And all the Israelites complained against Moses and Aaron. The whole congregation said to them, "Would that we have died in the land of Egypt, or would that we have died in this wilderness. Why is our Father in heaven bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our little ones will become booty. Would it not be better for us to go back to Egypt?" So they said to one another, "Let us choose a captain and go back to Egypt." Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the Israelites. And Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes and said to all the congregation of the Israelites, "The land that we went through as spies is an exceedingly good land. If our Father in heaven is pleased with us, he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land that flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against our Father in heaven, and do not fear the people of the land, for they are no more than bread for us. Their protection is removed from them, and our Father in heaven is with us. Do not fear them." But the whole congregation threatened to stone them. Then the glory of our Father in heaven appeared at the tent of meeting to all the Israelites. And our Father in heaven said to Moses, "How long will this people despise me? And how long will they refuse to believe in me, in spite of all the signs that I have done among them? I will strike them with pestilence and disinherit them, and I will make of you a nation greater and mightier than they." But Moses said to our Father in heaven, "Then the Egyptians will hear of it, for in your might you brought up this people from among them, and they will tell the inhabitants of this land, 'They have heard that you, O Father, are in the midst of this people. For you, O Father, are seen face to face, and your cloud stands over them, and you go in front of them, in a pillar of cloud by day, and in a pillar of fire by night.' Now, if you kill this people all at one time, then the nations who have heard about you will say, 'It is because their Father in heaven was not able to bring this people into the land he swore to give to them, that he has slaughtered them in the wilderness.' And now, therefore, let the power of our Father in heaven be great in the way that you promised when you spoke, saying, 'Your Father in heaven is slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love, forgiving iniquity and transgression, but by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the parents upon the children to the third and the fourth generation. Forgive the iniquity of this people according to the greatness of your steadfast love, just as you have pardoned this people from Egypt even until now.' Then our Father in heaven said, 'I do forgive, just as you have asked. Nevertheless, as I live, and as all the earth shall be filled with the glory of your Father in heaven, none of the people who have seen my glory and the signs that I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and yet have tested me these 10 times and have not obeyed my voice, shall see the land that I swore to give to their ancestors. None of those who despise me shall see it. But my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit and has followed me wholeheartedly, I will bring into the land into which he went, and his descendants shall possess it. Now, since the Amalekites and the Canaanites live in the valleys, turn tomorrow and set out for the wilderness by the way to the Red Sea." And our Father in heaven spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "How long shall this wicked congregation complain against me? I have heard the complaints of the Israelites, which they complain against me. Say to them, 'As I live, says your Father in heaven, I will do to you the very things I heard you say. Your dead bodies shall fall in this very wilderness, and of all your number, including the census, from 20 years old and upward, who have complained against me, not one of you shall come into the land in which I swore to settle you, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. But your little ones, who you said would become booty, I will bring in, and they shall know the land that you have despised. But as for you, your dead bodies shall fall in this wilderness, and your children shall be shepherds in the wilderness for 40 years, and shall suffer for your faithlessness until the last of your dead bodies lies in the wilderness. According to the number of the days in which you spied out the land, 40 days, for every day a year you shall bear your iniquity, 40 years, and you shall know my displeasure. I, your Father in heaven, have spoken. Surely I will do this to all this wicked congregation gathered together against me. In this wilderness they shall come to a full end, and there they shall die. And the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land, who returned and made all the congregation complain against him by bringing a bad report about the land, the men who brought an unfavorable report about the land died by a plague before our Father in heaven. But Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, alone remained alive, of those men who went to spy out the land. When Moses told these words to all the Israelites, the people mourned greatly. They rose early in the morning and went up to the heights of the hill country, saying, Here we are. We will go up to the place that our Father in heaven has promised, for we have sinned. But Moses said, Why do you continue to transgress the commandment of our Father in heaven? That will not succeed. Do not go up, for our Father in heaven is not with you. Do not let yourselves be struck down before your enemies. For the Amalekites and the Canaanites will confront you there, and you shall fall by the sword, because you have turned back from following our Father in heaven. Our Father in heaven will not be with you. But they presumed to go up to the heights of the hill country, even though the ark of the covenant of our father and Moses had not left the camp. Then the Amalekites and the Canaanites who lived in that hill country came down and defeated them, pursuing them as far as Hormah. Chapter 15. Our Father in heaven spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the Israelites and say to them, When you come into the land you are to inhabit, which I am giving you, and you make an offering by fire to your Father from the herd or from the flock, whether a burnt offering or a sacrifice, to fulfill a vow or as a freewill offering or at your appointed festivals, to make a pleasing odor for your Father in heaven. Then whoever presents such an offering to your Father shall present also a grain offering, 1/10 of an ephah of choice flour, mixed with 1/4 of a hin of oil. Moreover, you shall offer 1/4 of a hin of wine as a drink offering with the burnt offering or the sacrifice for each lamb. For a ram you shall offer a grain offering, 2/10 of an ephah of choice flour mixed with 1/3 of a hin of oil. And as a drink offering you shall offer 1/3 of a hin of wine and a pleasing odor to your Father in heaven. When you offer a bull as a burnt offering or a sacrifice to fulfill a vow or as an offering of well-being to your Father, then you shall present with the bull a grain offering, 3/10 of an ephah of choice flour, mixed with half a hin of oil. And you shall present as a drink offering half a hin of wine, as an offering by fire, a pleasing odor to your Father in heaven. Thus it shall be done for each ox or ram, or for each of the male lambs or the kids, according to the number that you offer, so that you shall do with each and every one. Every native Israelite shall do these things in this way, in presenting an offering by fire, a pleasing odor to your Father. An alien who lives with you or who takes up permanent residence among you and wishes to offer an offering by fire, a pleasing odor to your Father, shall do as you do. As for the assembly, there shall be for both you and the resident alien in a single statute, a perpetual statute throughout your generations. You and the alien shall be alike before your Father. You and the alien who resides with you shall have the same law and the same ordinance. Our Father in heaven spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the Israelites and say to them, After you come into the land to which I am bringing you, Whenever you eat of the bread of the land, you shall present a donation to your Father in heaven. From your first batch of dough, you shall present a loaf as a donation. You shall present it just as you present a donation from the threshing floor. Throughout your generations, you shall give to your Father a donation from the first of your batch of dough. But if you unintentionally fail to observe all these commandments that your Father has spoken to Moses, everything that your Father has commanded you by Moses, from the day your Father gave commandment and thereafter throughout your generations, then if it was done unintentionally without the knowledge of the congregation, the whole congregation shall offer one young bull for a burnt offering, a pleasing odor to your Father, together with its grain offering and its drink offering, according to the ordinance, and one male goat for a sin offering. The priest shall make atonement for all the congregation of the Israelites, and they shall be forgiven. It was unintentional, and they have brought their offering, an offering by fire to your Father in heaven, and their sin offering before your Father for their error. All the congregation of the Israelites shall be forgiven, as well as the aliens residing among them, because the whole people was involved in the error. An individual who sins unintentionally shall present a female goat a year old for a sin offering, and the priest shall make atonement before your Father for the one who commits an error. When it is unintentional, to make atonement for the person who then shall be forgiven. For both the native among the Israelites and the alien residing among them, you shall have the same law for anyone who acts in error. But whoever acts high handedly, whether a native or an alien, affronts your Father in heaven and shall be cut off from among the people. Because of having despised the word of your Father and broken his commandment, such a person shall be utterly cut off and bear the guilt. When the Israelites were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath day. Those who found him gathering sticks brought him to Moses, Aaron, and to the whole congregation. They put him in custody because it was not clear what should be done to him. When our Father in heaven said to Moses, Then our Father in heaven said to Moses, The man shall be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him outside the camp. The whole congregation brought him outside the camp and stoned him to death, just as our Father in heaven had commanded Moses. Our Father in heaven said to Moses, Speak to the Israelites and tell them to make fringes on the corners of their garments throughout their generations and to put a blue cord on the fringe at each corner. You have the fringe so that when you see it, you will remember all the commandments of your Father and do them, and not follow the lust of your own heart and your own eyes. So you shall remember and do all my commandments, and you shall be holy to your God. I am your Father in heaven, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am your Father in heaven, your God. Chapter 16. Now Korah, son of Ishar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, along with Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, and On, son of Peleth, descendants of Reuben, took 250 Israelite men, leaders of the congregation, chosen from the assembly, well-known men, and they confronted Moses. They assembled against Moses and against Aaron and said to them, You have gone too far. All the congregation are holy, every one of them, and our Father in heaven is among them. So why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of our Father in heaven? When Moses heard it, he fell on his face. Then he said to Korah and all his company, In the morning, our Father in heaven will make known who is his and who is holy and who will be allowed to approach him. The one whom he will choose, he will allow to approach him. Do this. Take censers, Korah, and all your company, and tomorrow put fire in them and light incense on them before our Father in heaven. And the man whom our Father in heaven chooses shall be the Holy One. You Levites have gone too far. Then Moses said to Korah, Hear now, you Levites. Is it too little for you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel, to allow you to approach him in order to perform the duties of our Father in heaven's tabernacle, and to stand before the congregation and serve them? He has allowed you to approach him and all your brother Levites with you. Yet you seek the priesthood as well. Therefore, you and all your company have gathered together against our Father in heaven. What is Aaron that you rail against him? Moses sent for Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, but they said, We will not come. Is it too little that you have brought us up out of the land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you must also lord it over us? It is clear you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, or given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Would you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come. Moses was very angry and said to our Father in heaven, Pay no attention to their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, and I have not harmed any one of them. And Moses said to Korah, As for you and all your company, be present tomorrow before our Father in heaven, you and they and Aaron, and let each one of you take his censer and put incense on it, and each one of you present his censer before our Father in heaven. 250 censers, you also and Aaron, each his censer. So each man took his censer, and they put fire in the censers and laid incense on them. And they stood at the entrance of the tent of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Then Korah assembled the whole congregation against them at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And the glory of our Father appeared to the whole congregation. Then our Father in heaven spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Separate yourselves from this congregation, so that I may consume them in a moment. They fell on their faces and said, O Father, Father of the spirits of all flesh, shall one person sin and you become angry with the whole congregation? And our Father in heaven spoke to Moses, saying, Say to the congregation, Get away from the dwellings of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So Moses got up and went to Dathan and Abiram. The elders of Israel followed him. He said to the congregation, Turn away from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, or you will be swept away for all their sins. So they got away from the dwellings of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the entrance of their tents, together with their wives, their children, and their little ones. And Moses said, This is how you shall know that our Father in heaven has sent me to do all these works. It has not been of my own accord. If these people die a natural death, or if a natural fate comes on them, then our Father in heaven has not sent me. But if our Father in heaven creates something new, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into Sheol, then you shall know that these men have despised our Father in heaven. As soon as he finished speaking all these words, the ground under them was split apart. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, along with their households, everyone who belonged to Korah and all their goods. So they with them, all that belonged to them, went down alive into Sheol. The earth closed over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. All Israel around them fled at their outcry, for they said, The earth will swallow us too. And fire came down from our Father in heaven and consumed the 250 men offering the incense. Then our Father in heaven spoke to Moses, saying, Tell Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, to take the censers out of the blaze, then scatter the fire far and wide. For the censers of these sinners have become holy at the cost of their lives. Make them into hammered plates as a covering for the altar. For they presented them before your Father in heaven, and they became holy. Thus they shall be a sign to the Israelites. So the priest took the bronze censers that had been presented by those who were burned, and they were hammered out as a covering for the altar, a reminder to the Israelites that no outsider who is not of the descendants of Aaron shall approach to offer incense before our Father in heaven, so as not to become like Korah and his company, just as our father had said to him through Moses. On the next day, however, the whole congregation of the Israelites rebelled against Moses and Aaron, saying, "You have killed the people of our Father in heaven." And when the congregation had assembled against them, Moses and Aaron turned toward the tent of meeting. The cloud had covered it, and the glory of our Father appeared. Then Moses and Aaron came to the front of the tent of meeting, and our Father in heaven spoke to Moses, saying, "Get away from this congregation, so that I may consume them in a moment." And they fell on their faces. Moses said to Aaron, "Take your censer, put fire on it from the altar, and lay incense on it, and carry it quickly to the congregation, and make atonement for them. For wrath has gone out from our Father in heaven. The plague has begun." So Aaron took it as Moses had ordered and ran into the middle of the assembly where the plague had already begun among the people. He put on the incense and made atonement for the people. He stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stopped. Those who died by the plague were 14,700, besides those who died in the affair of Korah. When the plague was stopped, Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Chapter 17. Our Father in heaven spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelites, and get 12 staffs from them, one for each ancestral house, from all the leaders of their ancestral houses. Write each man's name on his staff, and write Aaron's name on the staff of Levi. For there shall be one staff for the head of each ancestral house. Place them in the tent of meeting before the covenant, where I meet with you. And the staff of the man whom I choose shall sprout. Thus I will put a stop to the complaints of the Israelites that they continually make against you." Moses spoke to the Israelites, and all their leaders gave him staffs, one for each leader, according to their ancestral houses, 12 staffs. And the staff of Aaron was among theirs. So Moses placed the staffs before our Father in heaven in the tent of the covenant. When Moses went into the tent of the covenant on the next day, the staff of Aaron for the house of Levi had sprouted. It put forth buds, produced blossoms, and bore ripe almonds. Then Moses brought out all the staffs from before our Father in heaven to the Israelites. And they looked, and each man took his staff. And our Father in heaven said to Moses, "Put back the staff of Aaron before the covenant, to be kept as a warning to rebels, so that you may make an end of their complaints against me, or else they will die." Moses did so. Just as our father commanded him, so he did. The Israelites said to Moses, "We are perishing. We are lost. All of us are lost. Everyone who approaches the tabernacle of our Father in heaven will die. Are we all to perish?" Chapter 18. Chapter 18. Our Father in heaven said to Aaron, "You and your sons and your ancestral house with you shall bear responsibility for offenses connected with the sanctuary, while you and your sons alone shall bear responsibility for offenses connected with the priesthood. So bring with you also your brothers of the tribe of Levi, your ancestral tribe, in order that they may be joined to you and serve you while you and your sons with you are in the front of the tent of the covenant. They shall perform duties for you and for the whole tent, but they must not approach either the utensils of the sanctuary or the altar. Otherwise, both they and you will die. They are attached to you in order to perform the duties of the tent of meeting. For all the service of the tent, no outsider shall approach you. You yourselves shall perform the duties of the sanctuary and the duties of the altar. so that wrath may never again come upon the Israelites. It is I who now take your brother It is I who now take your brother Levites from among the Israelites. They are now yours as a gift, dedicated to your father to perform the service of the tent of meeting. But you and your sons with you shall diligently perform your priestly duties and all that concerns the altar and the area behind the curtain. I give your priesthood as a gift. Any outsider who approaches shall be put to death. Our Father in heaven spoke to Aaron, I have given you charge of the offerings made to me, all the holy gifts of the Israelites. I have given them to you and your sons as a priestly portion due you in perpetuity. This shall be yours from the most holy things, reserved from the fire. Every offering of theirs that they render to me as a most holy thing, whether grain offering, sin offering, or guilt offering, shall belong to you and your sons. As a most holy thing, you shall eat it. Every male may eat it. It shall be holy to you. This also is yours. I have given to you, together with your sons and daughters, as a perpetual due, whatever is set aside from the gifts of all the elevation offerings of the Israelites. Every one who is clean in your house may eat them. All the best of the oil and all the best of the wine and of the grain, the choice produce that they give to our Father in heaven, I have given to you. The first fruits of all that is in their land, which they bring to your Father in heaven, shall be yours. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat of it. Every devoted thing in Israel shall be yours. The first issue of the womb of all creatures, human and animal, which is offered to your Father in heaven, shall be yours. But the firstborn of human beings you shall redeem, and the firstborn of unclean animals you shall redeem. Their redemption price, reckoned from 1 month of age, you shall fix at 5 shekels of silver, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, that is 20 gerahs. But the firstborn of a cow, or the firstborn of a sheep, or the firstborn of a goat, you shall not redeem. They are holy. You shall dash their blood on the altar, and shall turn their fat into smoke as an offering by fire for a pleasing odor to your Father in heaven. But their flesh shall be yours, just as the breast that is elevated and as the right thigh are yours. All the holy offerings that the Israelites present to your Father in heaven, I have given to you, together with your sons and daughters, as a perpetual due. It is a covenant of salt forever before your Father in heaven for you and your descendants as well. Then our Father in heaven said to Aaron, you shall have no allotment in their land, nor shall you have any share among them. I am your share and your possession among the Israelites. To the Levites I have given every tithe in Israel for a possession in return for the service that they perform, the service in the tent of meeting. From now on, the Israelites shall no longer approach the tent of meeting, or else they will incur guilt and die. But the Levites shall perform the service of the tent of meeting, and they shall bear responsibility for their own offenses. It shall be a perpetual statute throughout your generations. But among the Israelites they shall have no allotment, because I have given to the Levites as their portion the tithe of the Israelites, which they set apart as an offering to your Father. Therefore I have said of them that they have no allotment among the Israelites. Then our Father in heaven spoke to Moses, saying, you shall speak to the Levites, saying, when you receive from the Israelites the tithe that I have given you from them for your portion, you shall set apart an offering from it to your Father, a tithe of the tithe. It shall be reckoned to you as your gift, the same as the grain of the threshing floor and the fullness of the winepress. Thus you shall also set apart an offering to your Father in heaven from all the tithes that you receive from the Israelites, and from them you shall give your Father in heaven's offering to the priest Aaron. Out of all the gifts to you, you shall set apart every offering due to your Father. The best of all of them is the part to be consecrated. Say also to them, when you have set apart the best of it, then the rest shall be reckoned to the Levites as produce of the threshing floor, and as produce of the winepress. You may eat it in any place, you and your households, for it is your payment for your service in the tent of meeting. You shall incur no guilt by reason of it when you have offered the best of it. You shall not profane the holy gifts of the Israelites on pain of death. Father willing, we will continue with Numbers chapter 19. May our Father, Messiah, and the Holy Spirit be with us. Repent. The kingdom of heaven is near. Peace.